The cold was the first thing that hit you under the I-40 overpass. Not just the physical chill, but a deeper, structural coldness that seemed to leach the warmth out of the air. It was a grim, echoing space where the constant, brutal roar of traffic overhead replaced the sound of life. It was here that Bob and Martha had stood for an hour after the desperate call. We were looking for a little soul they called Buddy. Our eyes slowly adjusted to the gloom, tracking a small, dark shape huddled near a rusted support beam. And there he was, this tiny, filthy pup, shaking so hard you could see the tremors from 50 feet away. He was covered in black grime, his small body a pitiful knot of fear, his eyes locked straight onto the cold, unforgiving concrete. He wasn't looking for help. He was just waiting for the world to stop. Bob looked at me, and I saw that quiet, bedrock determination that has been our anchor for 50 years. "We aren't leaving him, Martha," he said. He got down on his knees and started to crawl forward, inch by agonizing inch. Buddy didn't flinch. He just kept shaking, a rhythmic, desperate trembling that spoke of days, maybe a whole week, of terror and exposure. We tried a soft whisper. We tried a piece of warm chicken. He wouldn't even lift his head. That's when the sickness hit us. It wasn't just fear, it was the stench of deep neglect. His ribs jutted out like knives. His fur was matted into what looked like an old stained rug. We finally managed to gently scoop him up. He made no sound, just a deep, pitiful groan. We rushed him straight to Dr. Miller. After the exam, the doctor looked at us, her expression grave. "Good Lord, Martha, he's severely dehydrated, zero food in him, and he's already fighting off a systemic infection. He wouldn't have made it through tomorrow." Hearing those words, knowing we were that close to failing him, crushed us, but it also ignited a fire. We looked at Buddy, huddled on the table, and knew this was just the beginning of the fight. How do you give hope to a soul that's forgotten what safety feels like? The valley of physical pain and silent prayer. The drive home from Dr. Miller's clinic was the longest we'd ever taken. The emotional high of finding him had crashed into the stark reality of his medical crisis. We were driving a tiny, dying creature who was barely a shadow of a dog, and every decision felt immense, weighted with the fragility of life. Buddy, bundled in a towel over my hand-woven woolen blanket, still shook. Every rut in the road, every sudden break, was met with a new jolt of fear running through his frail body. The blanket was heavy with the grim stench of the underpass, a constant reminder of where he'd been. I held him tighter, trying to communicate commitment with sheer physical warmth and steady breath. I started humming, an old tune, Amazing Grace. It was a song of quiet faith, a prayer without words to fill the terrifying silence in the cab. Bob drove with excruciating slowness, his jaw tight, navigating the highway with obsessive caution. He kept glancing over, his eyes asking, "Is he still breathing?" My arm was going numb. My shoulder ached from the unnatural, locked position of cradling him so carefully. But I wouldn't shift. I couldn't. I felt that if I moved even an inch, the precarious, fragile grip he had on life would slip. The simple act of holding him became a physical trial, a small price to pay for the enormous emotional burden we carried. We talked quietly about his past, but quickly realized the answers didn't matter. Only the present moment did. We had to focus on the next breath, the next mile, the next step towards our porch light. We had to be his rock, his anchor in a world that had betrayed him. We knew this was going to be a battle fought minute by minute, breath by breath. We were committed. We were just waiting for that one flicker that proved he was committed too. We knew the physical healing was up to Dr. Miller's medicine, but the spirit, that was up to us. I wrapped him tight in my favorite woolen blanket, the one that smelled like our home, like wood smoke and fresh laundry. Bob drove slowly, carefully navigating the back roads away from the roar of the interstate. Buddy was a little statue in my lap. He was still shaking. His wide, scared eyes kept darting back and forth. I just held him close, rocking him gently, singing old hymns I used to sing to our children. I talked to him about the safety of our house on the hill, about the warm hearth waiting for him. I focused on trying to transmit calm, the way a lighthouse sends out a steady beam in the storm. The entire ride took over 2 hours. My arm was numb, my legs cramped, but I didn't dare move. Then about halfway home, as Bob was merging onto the quiet county highway, it happened. The shaking began to slow. The trembling became irregular, then intermittent. Buddy's eyelids fluttered, heavy with exhaustion. He wasn't fighting sleep anymore. He sighed. Not a gasp of fear, but a deep, long, shuddering sigh of pure, absolute relief. And then his little head became heavy and slumped against my chest. His whole body relaxed against the soft wool. He was asleep. The shaking stopped. Completely. It was the first moment of peace that poor soul had known in a long, long time. Bob looked over at me, and I saw his eyes glistening. "He trusts us, Martha," Bob whispered, his voice catching. Bless his heart, he finally let go. That simple act of surrender, of a terrified creature choosing sleep in a stranger's arms, was the sweetest reward we could have asked for. It felt like the first time we could finally breathe too. The quiet joy of that drive faded quickly once we got home. The real, grinding, non-glamorous work of true rescue began. The first task was the bath, which was less a gentle washing and more an archaeological excavation. The dirt and grime were caked in, hardened by days of sun and rain. We had to soak him 3 times to loosen the filth. The water turned black, then brown, then a muddy gray, a visual record of his suffering washing down the drain. Bob talked to Buddy the whole time, a steady, calming rumble of a voice. Buddy stood there with a strange, passive obedience, enduring the process. When the water finally ran clear, we saw him for the first time. A beautiful little hound mix, with big, trusting brown eyes and long, floppy ears. We placed him in a clean, soft crate next to the hearth in the sunroom. He ate a small bowl of rice and chicken broth and immediately curled up. He slept for almost 18 hours straight. When he woke up, he was stronger, walking and exploring the edges of the room. Every small movement was a victory. But the tail, that tail was a barometer for his soul, and it was permanently stuck at neutral. It wasn't tucked in fear anymore, but it wasn't moving with joy. It just hung there, the visual sign of the last wall of trauma he couldn't break down, a silent denial of happiness. Dr. Miller cautioned us. The body heals faster than the mind, Bob. The spirit needs more time. Give him stability. Give him routine. Just keep pouring in the steady stream of kindness. And so we did. Our days settled into an unwavering routine. Bob fixed the back gate latch to ensure the yard was a fortress of safety. Martha spent hours reading on the couch while Buddy slept at her feet, offering gentle, silent scratches. We learned the patience of true love. This was a marathon of slow, deliberate healing, but the quiet anxiety remained. Would he ever truly break free? Climax 3. The fight for life. For 2 days, Buddy made incredible progress. We were convinced the danger was over, but the darkness always lurks. On the 3rd night, I was woken by a horrible sound, a thin, sickly whine from Buddy's crate. I raced downstairs. Buddy was panting heavily. His eyes were wide but dull. His nose was dry and hot. I immediately checked his gums, pale, almost white. Bob, get up now. It's his fever. It's spiking." We knew what this was. The infection was fighting back. Dr. Miller had warned us. Panic is a cold, sharp thing. I called the emergency vet clinic downtown. It was 2 a.m. and the rain was falling hard, making the back roads slick. We drove like maniacs, Bob gripping the wheel, his knuckles white. He ran 2 stop signs, something Bob, a lifelong stickler for the law, had never done. I sat in the passenger seat, cradling Buddy, talking to him constantly. "Come on, little man, stay with us." At the clinic, the young vet rushed him back. "We need to run blood work immediately. His symptoms are lining up with a serious viral infection, possibly parvo." Parvo. The word hung in the air like a death sentence. We were ushered into a small, cold waiting room. We sat in the dim light for what felt like an eternity, holding hands, praying. We promised each other, if he makes it through this, we will find him the most loving home. We will not fail him now. Hours passed. Finally, the vet returned. Her face was grave. "It's not parvo, thank God, but it's a severe bacterial infection coupled with acute dehydration. He is crashing. We've put him on IV fluids and broad-spectrum antibiotics. Now we wait. We might lose him." That was the lowest we had felt. We had come so far, only to surrender to hope. We drove home just before sunrise, the house feeling empty, the crate silent. The waiting was agony. Bob fought the helplessness with domestic order, tidying the kitchen. I sat by the window, watching the clock. At 9 a.m., the call came. Dr. Miller's voice was steady. "Bob, Martha, he made it. The antibiotics are working. His fever broke again. He's weak, but he's responding." We both collapsed into the nearest chair. Tears of pure, exhausted relief streamed down my face. Buddy had fought the street, and now he had fought death itself. He was truly a survivor. The valley of betrayal and the broken collar. The second recovery was even slower. Buddy was listless, looking like a dog tired of fighting. We redoubled our efforts, treating him like a fragile, precious piece of glass. One afternoon, I was giving him a final, meticulous groom. His coat was finally coming in smooth and glossy. I was using a fine-tooth brush to gently remove the last, stubborn patches of matted fur from around his neck and shoulder blades. Suddenly, the brush snagged, hard. I pulled back gently. It was something hard, something plastic and frayed. I worked slowly, carefully until the item emerged. It was an old, cheap, faded blue nylon collar. The clasp was broken, half eaten away. It was practically fused into his skin, a disgusting remnant of his past life. I stared at it. Bob picked up the collar. It was small, too small. "He wasn't a stray, Martha." Bob's voice was low, strained with anger. "This was his collar. Someone drove out to that godforsaken overpass and chose to leave him. He wasn't lost. He was betrayed." That realization hit us like a punch to the gut. His fear wasn't just survival instinct. It was the crushing weight of having been loved, cared for, and then discarded like trash. His soul was carrying the memory of ultimate rejection. We knew simply finding him a new home wouldn't be enough. He needed reassurance of permanent, unconditional love. We stopped talking about adoption entirely. We told the rescue group we needed more time. We stopped treating him like a project and started treating him like a family member. We started a new routine. Every evening, Bob would sit on the front porch swing and read the paper. Buddy would lie at his feet. They wouldn't interact, just exist together. The simple, unwavering presence of a good man, reading his paper, never leaving, always there. That was the antidote to the lonely darkness of the I-40 underpass. We knew the ultimate test was coming. The waiting continued for another 2 weeks. Buddy was now fully recovered physically. He was running, jumping, and chasing squirrels with unbridled energy. He had begun playing with a small, squeaky toy. But the tail, that stubborn, still tail, remained a silent sentinel of his past trauma. It moved for balance, it moved for fear, but never for joy. We had accepted that this might just be who he was, a safe dog with a broken spirit. It was a Sunday afternoon, the kind of clear, golden afternoon that only the Midwest can produce. Bob was sitting on the front porch swing, the paper forgotten in his lap, looking out at the yard. I was standing in the doorway, enjoying the quiet perfection. Buddy was about 20 feet away, sniffing a patch of clover. Bob wasn't calling him to eat or come inside. He just looked over, quiet and reflective, and said, his voice low and soft, filled with a gentle honesty, "You're a good boy, Buddy. A brave, good boy." Simple words. Words of affirmation, not command. Buddy stopped sniffing. He slowly raised his head. He looked straight at Bob, then shifted his gaze to me. He tilted his head, processing the purely selfless, unconditional love in Bob's voice. He was calculating. Was this a trick? Was this safe? He saw only 2 steady, constant figures, 2 anchors in a shifting world. And then, it happened. His tail lifted. Not a nervous twitch, but a big, joyful, exuberant wag. His whole back end wiggled with pure, unadulterated happiness. It was an explosion of joy, delayed for weeks, but finally unleashed. He let out a small, happy yelp, the first sound of pure happiness we had ever heard, and he galloped towards Bob, his little body sleek and strong, and licked Bob's hand furiously. That was the moment. The physical rescue was done weeks ago, but this was the spiritual rescue. He had finally let go of the pain. He had accepted the love. His spirit was free. Bob didn't even laugh. He just quietly scratched Buddy behind his ears, a tiny tear rolling down his weathered cheek. "Welcome home, son," he whispered. We had healed the last wound. The house was filled with joy now. Buddy was a different dog, a confident, happy whirlwind of fur and noise. His tail was a constant metronome of happiness, its rhythmic thump-thump replacing the silence of the house. And that's when we knew we had to let him go. Our mission was never to keep him, but to heal him, and he was whole. Finding him a home now was not a burden, it was a celebration. It felt like the bittersweet moment when your children leave for college, a pain tempered by pride. Our home was the hospital. Their home would be the family. We called the rescue back. They had the perfect match. The Johnsons, a delightful retired couple who lived just outside town on a beautiful piece of land. They were looking for a companion, and their home felt like a sanctuary. We vetted them rigorously, ensuring that Buddy's new home was as unshakable as ours. The last night Buddy spent with us was quiet and tender. I gave him a final long brush. Bob let him sleep on the foot of our bed. We sat in silence, realizing that in healing Buddy, we had also healed a small, empty space in our own hearts. It was painful. It was a beautiful agony. The hardest act of love is sometimes the letting go. The day of the adoption came, 1 month to the day after we found him under that cold bridge. We brought Buddy out to the front yard. The Johnsons were waiting, kneeling down, their hands outstretched, their faces wreathed in nervous, eager smiles. Buddy didn't hesitate. He ran straight to them. He jumped into the lap of Mrs. Johnson, burying his face in her neck, his tail blurring the air faster than we'd ever seen. He licked Mr. Johnson's face, then circled their legs. He was home. He chose them instantly. As they stood up to leave, Mrs. Johnson was already crying happy tears. Bob and I stood on the porch, holding hands, watching this beautiful new life begin. It was a victory, but it was still a goodbye. The Johnsons got into their car. Buddy was settled safely in the back seat, panting happily, already licking Mrs. Johnson's ear. Bob waved. I blew a kiss. And then, the ultimate, perfect moment happened. Just as the car pulled slowly away from our curb, Buddy's small head popped up over the back seat. He looked back at us, not with fear, not with sadness, not with confusion. He looked back at Bob and Martha, and he wagged his tail one last, slow, deliberate, incredibly happy wag, as if to say, "Thank you. Mission accomplished. I am safe now." And then he turned forward, facing the road ahead, ready for his forever. He didn't look back again. That was the absolute culmination of the entire journey. He was physically safe, spiritually whole, and finally completely loved. It was a triumph of kindness over cruelty, of faith over fear. We stood on that porch swing for a long time, watching the car disappear down the road. Every tear we shed was a tear of release. This is what it means to be human, to heal the broken and let them fly.